Hello, everybody. Welcome to International Podcast Day 2020. I am Dave Lee, co-founder of International Podcast Day. We want to thank everybody for tuning into our live broadcast. Also, using that hashtag International Podcast Day to celebrate the international celebration of the power of podcast. I am very pleased to welcome in, for I believe the third year run-in, Cláudio Fonseca from Portugal. How are you today?
I'm very fine. Thank you very much. It's still night here because it's 6 a.m. So wake up from the bed just for you.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, we've had a lot of early risers this year, so we
Yeah.
appreciate it. Before I turn it over to you, Cláudio, I do want to thank our sponsors for this event. You can find those over at internationalpodcastday.com. That includes our platinum sponsor, Blueberry. You can head over to that website and get a promo code for a free 30-day trial. You can also check out our gold sponsors, which are Focusrite, their premier audio in audio production in the business. You can also check out Podiant. They're also a podcast hosting and analytics company. And of course, we have some celebration supporters over there as well. And of course, without their support, this event would not be possible, along with our 60 podcasters from 26 different countries around the world. Without the support of everybody, International Podcast Day would not be what it is today. So, Cláudio, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I appreciate you joining us again for the third year. Very excited to have you, your story, and of course, Portugal represented for International Podcast Day.
And how is typical for me to toast you with, yeah, I saw that. That's amazing. So I want to toast you again with Muscatel de Setúbal, which is a wine here in Portugal, in my district, my state. So to all the podcasters in the world, happy International Podcast Day.
Cheers!
6 in the morning.
Absolutely. Yeah, 6 in the morning. That takes a lot. I still need to get a bottle of that. I'm looking forward to trying that one day. So
yep. You must try it.
Yes,
for me, it's the best.
Excellent.
So
well, Cláudio, we look forward to what you have to present for International Podcast Day. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you very much. So welcome everyone, and I will talk about what is the pod way of life. And it turns out that I participate in the International Podcast Day since 2018. So lots of podcasters internationally I have seen and talk and analyze all the stuff, and realize that doing the podcast is really a lifestyle, because it changed a lot of things. Like, for instance, I suppose just to wake up at 7 in the morning, and now I wake up already 6 in the morning. So that's one thing very important to do. It's know all our routine changes. Here in Portugal, we have a platform which it's like a national association where we talk about podcasting. We share our episodes and stuff like that, and some tips for the podcasters. And what happened is that today we are releasing a podcast of this platform. So all the podcasts here in Portugal team up and do some nice episodes. And I was until 2 a.m. here in Portugal, so just had 3-4 hours sleep, and I was preparing all the things to be scheduled today and do all the work alone. Well, I will be working in the school. So that's the point. It's to be prepared, to preparing all the stuff and be able to do the show for the others and provide the best work hard we can deliver. And what happens also is that our routine changes a lot, but not only our routine, our habits and our friends and family. What do I mean with this? Very easy, very simple. In a group of friends, maybe sometimes they don't ask you about you, but the first time they will ask is, "How's your podcast?" Or "I've been watching or hearing your podcast, and I heard this and that," and the conversation starts with that. So you like lose some identity for your podcast. So you're no longer Cláudio Fonseca, for instance, you are no longer Dave. You are the guy for this podcast. You are the guy for the International Podcast Day. So that's the magic, That's how it feels. It's how it works. And we are in the conversation, and something pops up, and you say, "Okay, I already worked that in my podcast. That's my episode, like number 5, number 6, for instance," and you can check out and do all the stuff. So that's the point, where everything changes. Um, I heard some guys in the international movements saying that podcast changed my life, and I go there and write again and say, no, podcast, it's a way of life, because you have to choose all the things. And I'm doing podcasting since 2017. So in January of 2021, I will be doing like 4 years of podcasting. It's amazing. I presently, I cannot believe my life without my 3 podcasts. Yes, because this thing always like start with 1, and then it goes 2, and then 3. So yeah, it's amazing how this thing can grow up, and it's fantastic to do all this thing, and you keep up the pace, and was what is in my synopsis of the communication. Is like some can get success, a little few can go to the highlight stars of podcasting, but a lot of them cannot pick up the pace, and it's very, very how can I say? It's a daily struggle, because when you can reach something great in the world of podcasts, in the world of your show, when your show can go up on the rankings, uh, escalating all the tops of Spotify, Apple Podcasts, for instance, it's a little bit difficult to slow down and get out a new pace. So it's like addicting when you are in the tops, like mine here in Portugal. I'm in my category of politics. I'm the number 1. Uh, in sports, I'm in the top 10, top 20 all the times. So it's addicting. You want more and more and more, and you have to do also more and more and more, because it's a project, and some of the projects, after 2 years, 3 years, they start to give you return, which means you can provide um, some strategies to monetize your podcast. And that's the funniest part, I believe. It's when your hobby turns out to be a way of making money. And we here in Portugal, we all know about the contract of Spotify with Joe Rogan. So it's like a milestone. It's like we want to be there Sunday, but just a little bit, just a few couldn't go there. So it's not easy. It's not reachable to everyone, unfortunately, of course. But that makes us do the better work. That makes us be able to keep going and trying and trying and trying and trying new strategies. So that's why I think International Podcast Day it's a very nice tool, because okay, we are now always we are all of us, we are celebrating, we are toasting, we are providing new material, new episodes, like, well, okay, I'm doing going to be on the International Podcast Day and stuff like that. But we can learn from each other, and that's what's one of the topics I mentioned it on 2018, is that we need to hear from each other, because a strategy uh, put on works on Zambia, that could works in Portugal, that could go in Argentina, in Brazil, in USA, other countries worldwide, and that's the beauty of the thing, because other all of us, we can do um learn from each other. International Podcast Day will always be attached to my podcast, because when I was live last year with two guys, we finished our communication, and we were at my house, and my mother after that was screaming, "Put on the TV! You are on the TV!" I said, "How can that be possible?" And it was an episode of my podcast, my political podcast, and I did some interviews with some candidates for our Congress. And one of those candidates, and now she's a deputy, she didn't know the current program of the party. So it goes like boom, everybody was talking about that for 2 weeks. And 2 weeks I was in the mall, in the shopping center, and people come to me and say, congratulations, or you were too bad for her. And that's a little bit difficult, to handle all that stuff. Um, and you need to be like cool down, and a strong mind to not let you go, be influenced by all these fame, I will say, because it's very easy to slip, and be like, okay, I'm amazing now, I cannot no, I don't do anything, and it's success. It doesn't work like that. You have to keep up the pace, you have to um, do better, go better, and have new ideas, because in the end of the day, a podcast is a podcast, and everybody in the end of the day are doing the same thing, because when people in Portugal speaks about storytelling, we have a podcast about storytelling, it's the same thing that the people in Africa, in America, in Asia. So what's different? What makes you different from the others? Because we are like 7 billion people in the world. So why should I listen to you? Why should I share the stories with you? Share your podcast to my friends and stuff like that. So that's the question, and that's what we need to ask ourselves. Is like, what can I do better? And believe me, that's the tricky part. That's the hard part of this, because we reach a point that we are not long uh, innovating, because okay, now let's go, all of us, we go to the YouTube. Okay, now we are YouTube, we have video on our podcast, stuff like that. But what does that change, because now everybody is on YouTube. So okay, I'll put some decoration here. Okay, I will put also. What changed? And we can put a lot of things behind us, literally. But the point here, and the most important thing here, is to be authentic, to be real, because we are not just a voice. We are a voice who are daily with someone, and we are like a company, a company. We make a company to someone. So we are a friend which doesn't kiss, which doesn't hang, uh, doesn't, you know, that's the point, and that's very important to realize our dimension and what we can say. That was one thing I already started talking about in 2018. It's like the power we all have, and if we have a voice, we can put, and we must uh, put our voice to good. You have to do good actions. You have to make people do good stuff and keep people, good. Because on this time of just not just the pandemic, uh, time now, but we are going like crazy times here in Portugal also. Um, those who have the power, those who have voice or have a microphone on their voice, they must like tell the world like, okay, just calm down, everything will be okay, and we must not do all the riots. We must not do some things we are badly doing. So that for me is very important because how many of us already received a message of someone we don't know just saying like, thank you very much, you are very inspiring for me. How much? I believe that all the podcasters here already received that message, and that's why we must appreciate that, and we must honor it. That's the verb, honor it, um, to our audience, even if it's a big audience, medium or low audience. They are people, and they have to be treated like that. So that's the point. Treating people like human beings all the time, not just in some cases or in others. So keep up the levels. That's very important. So if you have any questions or if you want to hear some stories, just say it on the comments, please, and I reading the comments so we can interact like, right now. So I would like to hear something of you. Um, and sorry, and it's very important to be human in this era where we just think about algorithm and how can the machine works for me and stuff like that. So sometimes we forget the stuffs. It's very awkward, all this stuff, and I believe that this pandemic puts the worst and the best of the human being. So we saw people fighting each other, but we have also stories of people who were helping each other, and that comes back to podcasts because um, in this pandemic we reached like the podcast 2 million. Yeah, so now we have 2 million podcasts in the world, which is amazing, which is great. Um, and now these people, these podcasters, uh, have to talk more, make more company to the other guys. And I had Dave on my podcast. We talked about podcasting during the quarantine. And what happens in this world, it's like it was all the podcasts. We had a lot of podcasts made during this quarantine, but we have also podcasts who disappear during the quarantine. Why is that? The first, it's like, and we talked about on this platform podcast I was talking about to you here in Portugal. It's like once I have time. So if I have time, I'm doing nothing here at home. I can launch a podcast. I can do some episodes. I can try the thing and see how it goes. No problem at all. And the other thing, it's like, okay, for me, for example, the politics, all the parliament was saying, and the Congress was saying, like, okay, we need new stuff for stop coronavirus. We need to do something about social security and health national program, and it was always on repeat. Nothing more than that. So for me in politics, it was like, okay, now what we all podcast about, because I talk about politics, I talk about laws were made in Congress and Parliament. So that's a challenge, you know. And I start to do other things and launch a new topic in my podcast, which is teaching politics to my audience. So I have a degree in history. So I'm now doing a degree in political science. So I have the resource, I have the books also to provide the knowledge of this. So it's how it's going to be. I will teach some political science to the audience, and that's the point because I realized like okay, I talk lots about politics, and in some episodes, I explain what is the Congress, what is the Parliament, uh, how the parties choose the leaders and stuff like that. But I don't have a specific episode talking about that. So it's like, okay, you pop up now and you see this episode, but maybe you will not listen like the episode number 9 or 10 or something like that. And in that episode, I explained uh, in the middle of the podcast what is Congress, what is the president role on the things. And I think it's very important to uh, clarify and stuff like that. And this quarantine gave us time for that, gave us time to innovate, provide new stuff, provide new tools. In the case of my two other podcasts about sports, one is tennis, while the other is cycling. Um, it was like, okay, the competition are stopped. What can we do now? And in the tennis, I have two more colleagues, and I said, okay, let's talk about the history of tennis, like uh, who were John McEnroe, who were all these guys in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s. So let's explore a little bit, and we got surprised because lots of us, both of three of us, we learned more things about tennis that we maybe will not achieve if we didn't have that particular idea. So that's the point. That's very important to to think, and that's what I was starting to do to talk in this communication. It's like we have to keep up the pace. We need to provide new stuff. We need to innovate, and because when you go forward and when you go in the front of the others, you can get more stuff. You can be the leader. You can be um, um, a visionary, you know, and that's very important for all of us. It's to create because our audience will appreciate that a lot. And other thing to talk is about social media. And here in Portugal, we had already the opportunity, thanks to Netflix, to see that documentary, which is the social dilemma, and it's a very interesting documentary. And the point here is like, okay, now what can we learn about it? Um, what can we do to provide more stuff, and what happened to all this technology and to this world. And the point is, we podcasters, we podcasters and podcasts, of course, we cannot live without social media, because social media are one of the most important part of podcasting nowadays, because it's where we can contact our audience, it's where audience can talk with us, um, and it's very very important uh, to be assured of that, because if I am in doubt if they would like an episode, I will just put a story on my Instagram and asking them like yes or no, easy, you know, and I will get the answer. And after that, I can put up an open box and say, give me some suggestions, give me some ideas, and I will do it. Um, and that's very important to do this, and be able to interact with our audience, because in the end of the day, it's not like just, okay, I have a podcast and please on YouTube just thumbs up and 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. For me, podcasting is more of that. You know, you have to spend some time with your audience. You need to uh, feed them. You need to talk with them, and that's one of the best parts. It's talk with our audience, because they are the reason of your success. And let me read this message from Naja Yusuf. More power to you, Claudio. Young people need to understand politics, but communicate it in the easygoing manner. I hope something similar will come up soon in my country, but the closest we have right now is a comic artist. Use humor and the name reference to explain current events of to his target audience. Oh, thank you very much, Naja. What's your country, please? Can you tell me? And it's really like that. I talk about politics, but I like to tweet politics with some kind of humor, because with humor the things go better. It's like when you're doing a sandwich and you put some jelly or some butter in that, and everything goes better. That's the point, and that's what we must do and appreciate, is that you know uh, developing these strategies to see what we can do to all this stuff, because when podcasting started in some say 2004, some say 2006. If we said to the first guy who recorded a podcast that um, one day you can contact your audience, one day you can put this type of stories, I don't know if that guy will believe, because back then it was just like a website with a RSD feed. So lots of things change of that. I remember when the international community criticized me a lot when I jumped from the beginning to the YouTube, and they say, no, that's not a podcast, that's a video cast. And I said, no, you say that because you are jealous. You say that because you cannot work with video, just like that. I never did a podcast, including on the YouTube, that was like, okay, it's very strong thing, a very strong thing. Like, if you don't see the video, you do not understand the podcast. That's not my point. Well, oh, Malaysia, nice. I'm a big fan of Formula One, and the Grand Prix, Malaysia Grand Prix is one of my favorites. So, thank you very much, Naja. Um, Add me on Twitter if you want, and maybe we can discuss further things. Um, and this was the topic. Like, we need to communicate more. We need to provide more things, and we need to innovate, because we all know that YouTube is a big tool. When when they because people search a lot of things on YouTube, so YouTube is like a second Google. It's another search engine, and if people go like, what is, how can I purchase a microphone, something like that, maybe they want to hear a podcast also there. So we must do it, and we are seeing also YouTube creating some material and give us apps that we don't need no video, so don't have to be don't have to You don't need to have your phone light up, and to be like some kind of Spotify just for music. And we are seeing Spotify going in the other direction. So Spotify is now putting videos. So if two platforms who at the beginning was very different, now they are getting closer. So maybe that's a sign that, okay, you must go and merge your things. And you have to put all the things in the all the platforms so that people can choose where they will listen to you, you know. And that's a very important thing because uh, we don't know who's gonna listen to us. Because, for instance, I have my public like in 30% they are on Apple Podcasts, 25%, 26% they are on Spotify, and the other percents are in Castbox, Radio Public, Google Podcasts. So I don't know how people go to listen to my podcast, because if someone listened to my podcast, probably they listen to other podcasts, and if the other podcasts are in those others platforms, I must go there also, because if they are my colleagues, they are there. Why can I not be there also? So that's the point, and it's very important to do that and appreciate all the stuff, because, like I said, and that's the main story here in my communication. It's the pod way of life. You need to provide. You need to feed your podcast if you are really committed with that. And it's very easy to be committed with your podcast, because you are putting money, you are putting time, and time is money also, to your baby. It's like a baby. You are raising a baby, and the baby will be whatever you are to this baby. And he can grow up, he can go down, he can uh, die someday, because if you stop, that's the point. Worldwide expectation of a podcast um life is like just 1 year or 10 episodes. So to those who are starting the podcast, and they already reached like these milestones of 10 episodes or 1 year, congrats to all of you. You are amazing, and let's put this number higher. So maybe next year we'll say like lifetime of a podcast will be like 2 years and 20 episodes, like that. It will be great. It will be amazing if we can reach up that milestone and put some effort there. uh, it's really amazing. um, and this is the beauty of all stuff here in Portugal. I create this community, this platform. And last summer I went to the north of the country, and I meet up with some podcasters. So it's like, okay, you want to come to the north? Be at my place, no problem at all, and I will show you something in the city. I can provide you stuff here in the city, and we'll make a good time. And that's the magic of the thing, you know, and that's very amazing. Um, and this is what I take from the podcasting. It's like, okay, all this magic, all this stuff, being here today in the International Podcast Day, um, learning stories from the others, watching stories of the others. It's very nice. It's very interesting also, because um, that's how you can grow up, you know. And for this case, Naja Yusuf shared also a story to this humorist, and it's very interesting to do all this thing. I remember when I contact a podcaster from Zambia who participated in 2017. And the story of him on this international podcast, they was like, okay, I create one thing that did not exist in Zambia. It was all this stuff of podcasting, and those who are trying every day to put the work to put all these efforts to make people listen more to podcasts and do more podcasts, it's amazing. It's very, very nice, and we need to also praise International Podcast Day, because they are doing a nice work every year, and they are human. They are Dave and Steve, and they are two amazing people who I appreciate a lot. And if we are here today, it's thanks to them who started a national podcast day and now international podcast day. Then I was at the kickoff when they asked why not making this an international holiday, for instance. So we just have to dream, and here in Portugal we say that the dream commands the life. If you dream, you can achieve it. So just pursue your dreams and all your stuff, and it will be okay. Uh, Thank you very much, Dave. You're welcome, because it's that's the spirit. We need to recognize all the effort. We need to recognize all the small detail we are doing here, the history we are building here and writing here. It's very, very important, because um, if you did not have the idea, we'll never be here. We never met. We never record an episode together and stuff like that. So we need to appreciate all these small things and all the big changes worldwide. And I'm a guy who loves and studies history a lot. All the big changes started with small speeches, with small acts and ideas, so they can go bigger and bigger. And that's the magic of the stuff. That's the magic of the life, and that's what keeps me like motivated for this podcast. And I'm very forward to have lots of more episodes like those I had last year with the candidates. And it's amazing, because when we see, and I'm not doing any type of campaign here, just listen properly and closely. When you have Joe Rogan asking if Donald Trump and Joe Biden want to be at uh, his podcast, and Trump retweets with an answer and saying, "Let's do it." It's amazing. It's amazing for the podcast, because it's like, okay, you are making a presidential debate on your podcast. Keep keep doing the same question. If we asked the guy in 2004 and 2006 if they believe that one day one president will say, "Oh, okay, I want to debate on your podcast," will they believe? Maybe not. You know, and we need to see other thing. It's like, okay, this happened on the U.S. Maybe it happens on some other country, and we don't have news of that, because it could be in the in the country we don't follow the most, because all of us, we follow what happens in the US, in the Russia, in the India, in the China, because they are superpowers. But for instance, it happened here in Portugal. I have all the candidates, and give a story to this podcast, and that gives hope, I believe, to the others who want to do the same thing. And it just needs some, a push, to a trigger, and we are all here to say, okay, I did it. I can do it. So if I can do it, you can try it, and I hope you can be able to reach that milestone also, and um, do whatever you like, do whatever you want, and we, the community of podcasts, we need to um, be there to applause. We need to be there to uh, make people keep going, stuff like that. Here in Portugal, we have a big problem, which is the old media, because the old media, like the newspapers, TVs, and radios, they started to put podcasts also. So it's more difficult for us to compete with those who have already millions of followers, um, national, you know. And in the case of the radios, I said, no, you are not um, a podcast. You are just storaging the other way your radio show. So a radio show is a radio show. It's not designed to be a podcast, because a podcast is, it's what I say here in Portugal a lot is, podcast is not a format, is a content. It's very different, you know, because we are spending hours of our time to provide a good podcast episode. And some guy of the radio, let's say, okay, this was a good part, so let's put this. We back then we put on the website. Now we'll do it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So put a higher position on the ranking, on the top of chart, chart tables and stuff like that. So that's that's a struggle of mine. Every day I struggle with that. For instance, this was the third year in a row I'm here representing Portugal, and for the 3 year in the road, I sent emails, press releases to all the media, and zero published a news uh, of this. You know, it's very sad when you want to do your best, and when you are representing your country, and there are some people who like to pretend they are gods and say, okay, we'll talk about this. No, we will not talk about this. And that's, for me, it's not fair, you know, because it's a daily struggle. We just need like little push, just like, okay, I'm here, I'm screaming, I'm here, and the plane passes over and you stuck in the island. So you need to cut some trees and build some kind of boat to reach land, and it can be very exhausting when it happens. But I keep up the fight, and I do all my best to keep screaming and building a boat, of course. So that's the topic. That's the pod way of life, is having daily struggles, having problems, and fixing all those problems also. It's not easy, and you can get tired, believe me, but you have to do it, because when we do something in the podcasting world, we need to comprehend that we are not just doing that for us, we are doing that for other people also, you know. And that's why this all spirit of International Podcast Day, it's very important to do. Yeah, 2,200 subscribers on YouTube, um, more like six, six five, six thousands of plays per episode on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So that's why I'm ranking one on the politics, and ranking top 10, top 20 with the news. Okay, so I can pass lots of newspapers, radios, and TV shows on the chart tables of the of Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So that's a fight we can do, and when you can do it, it's motivating, you know. And this was as I was talking about, um, this topic of International Podcast Day. It's very important for us because we can build friendships. I believe we all podcasts we must be open to have friends in this world, because okay, I speak in Portuguese in my episode, and I believe that most of you are listening to me now. You don't know any word in Portuguese, but maybe in Portugal it happens something you want to do, and you can contact me, and I will explain to you what's happening in this country. Same thing if the case of Naja. So Naja is now the little rat in the laboratory, and I'm using it. So thank you, Naja, and sorry, Naja, at the same time. But if anything happens in Malaysia, at Malaysia, I will ask her, and she will be able to tell me better the story. And that's important. You know, you have to build all this stuff. It happens the same thing with Dave. Sometimes I'm asking him something from the US, and see if my point of view is correct and stuff like that. So that's the magic, you know. That's the magic of Worldwide. And once again, I record an episode in English with Dave, because here in Portugal, if you visit Portugal, please do a visit here in Portugal. It's a nice country in Europe, and it's amazing, um, because we have so many things like great here in Portugal. Uh, because Portugal in the 15th century launched the discovery of the world, like in America, in Africa, and in Asia. So it was we have a nice story. We bring all the parts of the world to be connected, and we have, so our story is very interesting. But we have lots of national monuments who are amazing, castles, palace. Uh, it's amazing. Our food, better food in the world, believe me. Our wines are amazing. So that's one of the topics. Like when you are doing podcasting, you can appreciate your your country. And as I was saying, here in Portugal, like 80% of the population speaks English. So it's very easy for me to bring international guests to my podcast, and even if it's a Portuguese show, I already spoke in French, in English, in the Spanish, and also in the Italian. So that's the point. And what happens now? It's like when I record something, I do the translation right away, um, because we need to think one thing, that you cannot put subtitles on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You know, you can put it on YouTube, but you cannot do it on the Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So it must be you. So you that happens also with tape, and start to shutting down this communication. This part of life, it's a real lifestyle. It's like waking up, preparing, see if I want some guests at my show. What will they do? What they will say? And that's very important to see and speak speak about, um, because people need to uh, prepare the show. We need, you know, because if you put some hard work, that hard work that your audience will notice and will be appreciate that, and will give you a blink of an eye. Like I say, okay, you are doing a nice work. keep going. I'm liking it, and they will support you automatically. Even if you ask them, they will do it. Like I published a story on my Instagram, like, okay, now we are top 50 general here in Portugal, and one of my biggest follower, he texted me like is still underrated, so we need to put that higher, and I will talk with some friends, like I will get you higher. So that's the point, you know. It's this communication between the podcaster and the audience. It's very very important, um, and you need to appreciate that. You need to build that, and you can spend lots of hours. I spend all my night working for the community of podcasts here in Portugal, um, and releasing podcasts and scheduling podcasts. That's a very important thing, and it's a tool. We need to use it. Okay, you work like from 8 o'clock to 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. More traffic. Sorry, you just reach home at 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Due to traffic and all the stuff. Um, so you need to use these tools, you know, and more and more we are getting tools of scheduling things, and you need to take advantage of that and put all your love in that. And I believe, I'm sure that you will receive all that love back, because podcasting is a really fair tool, you know, because when you put some work, when you put some love on the thing, the love comes back, because you are in the internet. In the internet, it's like the ultimate democracy in terms of spreading the things. You know, you are not. The internet is not like, okay, you are now on TV, and is the director of the TV who choose if you go live or you don't go live, and be published or not be published. Here in Portugal, lots of people shared the story, shared the news that will be here in the International Podcast Day, and that's the thing, that's the magic. You know, it you can be smaller people, and you can go wider. One of my favorite TV shows is from Netflix, which is about politics. Of course, it's House of Cards, and there's a sentence from Zoe Barnes when she confronts her boss. It's like, you are not just talking to me; you are talking to 1,000 people, because she tweeted all the things, and the tweet go wild with that, and people was like retweeting all the time. So that's the same thing here in the reality of the podcast. You are speaking to other guys. You are speaking um, all the time, and you need to appreciate that, and you need to um, spread the word and do your thing. Never give up, you know, because it's difficult for all of us. Okay, if you are more popular on your social networks, you can start ahead, but you can start ahead, but you must keep up the pace. If not, I will pass you. If you have more, I can pass you if I put more work, more hours of work on my project. So that's the point. I don't know if anyone have any question or any comment they want to do for these final minutes. Um, but that's the point. When someone approach you, they will ask you about your podcast, not about your health or about other things of you or of your marriage or something like that. They will um, do it and talk to you about your podcast and stuff like that, because you lose some of your identity to your podcast. I don't know if you agree, Dave, with me.
Yeah, Claudio, it's been a really good informative talk, and there's a lot of multitasking that you said goes on with podcasting. It's really all consuming to a large degree, and you do lose a bit of your identity. And I know for a fact with International Podcast Day, we focus on, the brand and the logo and what's behind that. And usually we don't, the face of me and Steve is not what makes International Podcast Day. It's the hashtag, it's the community, it's the logo, it's the website. And so, yeah, you do lose a little bit of that, but I think that's where you can come in with your community and engage. I think you having the YouTube channel is a really great way to put your face to your podcast. And Claudio, I want to thank you. I think you do a fantastic job internationally with your podcast. You have so many different people on. You've had me on there, and there's been a translation from Portuguese to English, and it's really cool to see that you're really sort of branching out and having a lot of those different voices from different areas from around the world on your podcast. So I think you're doing a really, really cool and very unique thing within the podcast space.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you very much. Yeah. The point of losing identity is not like people don't know you. It's like we are friends, know you better from the work you do that yourself. It's maybe now you are not going to work because you need to be home and do all this thing about International Podcast Day. Last year I skip up work, like, okay, I will be in the International Podcast Day, so I need this afternoon so I can be online and keep the things up. So will be just this time, but please comprehend that my boss back then was amazing and let me do the magic also.
Right. Well, Claudio, I want to thank you again for taking part in the International Podcast Day events and celebration and broadcast. You're one of 60 podcasters across 26 countries. So once again, I want to thank you on behalf of myself and Steve for making International Podcast Day such a success. And thank you again.
You're welcome. My pleasure. And thank you again. And a happy International Podcast Day to all.
Yes. Happy International Podcast Day, everybody. Thank you.